Falcon Tower, Cherokee 871 for November, about 8 to the south. I've got a rough engine.
Cherokee 8714 November, this is Chandler Tower, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm 8 south. It's running rough. I'm losing altitude about 300 feet per minute.
Cherokee 14 November, roger, continue towards the field if you can.
Yeah, I'm at 2,200. At this rate, unless I pick up RPMs, I'm not going to make it. So yeah, I am declaring an emergency.
What are we doing? I don't know. All right, today is, let's see, and I'm just going to start talking. I'm just going to be myself. All right, today's the 16th of May. Yesterday was the 15th. For all you geniuses. We're not going to get anything done. So, yeah, last night, I finished work yesterday afternoon, somewhere at 3 o'clock or something, and came home and I was just kind of trying to figure out, what am I going to do this evening? Mom's gone until late. She'll be gone until 9, 10 o'clock tonight. What am I going to do? And so I thought, I think I should go flying, right? So I left here and went to the airport, went through the pre-flight and everything, normal pre-flight, everything was fine. I was able to pre-flight before it was very dark. I didn't have to use a flashlight or anything, walked around the airplane, checked the airplane out, everything looked great. Everything felt good, like a normal. I was anticipating, and I know what I know what a successful flight looks like to Chin and back. I was just anticipating a normal, successful flight. So, pre-flighted, everything was normal. Run up was normal. Everything was normal. Just absolutely plain vanilla. Everything was the same as it always is. I took off. Nobody else was in the pattern. Took off, and well, there was some other people in the pattern. There's always somebody in the pattern. Anyway, turned south and went direct to Ok Chin. Nobody else was there. The lights worked. Clicked the lights 5 times. The lights worked. Everything was pretty normal. The landing was a little harder. It wasn't bad. I mean, I've had worse. Turned off the runway, went over the fuel pumps, filled up. I was almost full, very fuller than I usually fly. Probably, actually, that was probably more fuel than I have ever put in, I think. I don't think I've ever gone full fuel to 50 gallons. So that was a little weird. Anyway, completed fueling, went down to the end of the runway. I did a run up, and everything was normal, full power, everything. I took the runway and took off. Full power, everything was normal, normal acceleration, everything. Left-hand pattern, came around, landed, full stop, taxied back, took off again. And this time I was going to do a full stop, taxi back, and then take off again and go back to Chandler. So I did the second landing, and the second landing was okay. First landing, it was okay, not bad. But I did the second landing, and it was better. And then I came around. After the second landing, I was going to just take off and go, and I thought, I've got nowhere to be. I'm not in a hurry. It's good practice. I'm going to do another full stop taxi back. I did that. Decided to do the third one, and then I taxied back. And then this time I was taking off and departing to the northeast to Chandler. I climbed out. Climb out was normal. No indication of any mechanical problems. Everything was normal, other than I could feel that we were heavy. RPMs were normal. Climb rate was 500 feet per minute. Power was normal. I was off the ground in less than 1,000 feet. So I know power was full at the moment of takeoff. And I climbed up to, I had thought about going to 2,500 feet, and I go, yeah, 2,500. I hate being over the houses, especially at night, at 2,500 feet. So I went ahead and I was headed to 3,000 feet. GPS showed me at 29, actually. So I was getting to the point where I was just almost directly south of Chandler and heading straight at the airport. but I always call in at 8 nautical miles south of the airport. And the call is Chandler Tower, Cherokee 8714 November, 8 south of the airport, inbound full stop with Mike. I didn't call in. I never got a chance to call in because I was getting ready to, and then I heard this pop, and it wasn't a real loud pop. It was just kind of a gentle pop, and and then the engine roughness started. And I'm going, and at first it's kind of unbelief. You're going, no, it's going to be fine. It's going to smooth out. Everything's going to be fine, and we're going to be okay. 10 seconds after that, I'm going, this isn't okay. I start going through the checklist, and I'm listening to it, trying to think, what is it? What could it be? And I had a feeling that we're not returning to normal. I mean, it was pretty quick. So right away, I keyed the mic and I called Chandler Tower and said, Chandler Tower, Cherokee 8714 November, 9 South. I have a rough running engine. Oh, you can cut this out, right? I don't think I'm going to make the airport because I'd already noticed I'm losing 300 feet per minute. I'm 9 miles south. There is no way I'm going to make it at 300 feet per minute. But I continued on north course. He came back, and I think the third call is when I declared the emergency.
Yeah, I'm at 2,200. At this rate, unless I pick up RPMs, I'm not going to make it. So yeah, I am declaring an emergency.
Cherokee 1 for November, roger. I'm going to call PD now. Just keep it if you can, if you find a road or anything.
He came back and said, I'm rolling the trucks from Chandler and Gila River community, and which he did, which is awesome. I mean, Chandler was there not less than a couple of minutes after I hit the ground. They were fantastic. Also, there was in the air a medevac helicopter in the air who came and hovered around me. Anyway, we aren't to that point yet. We're getting ahead of ourselves. Anyway, continued north. I knew I wasn't going to make it. I'm looking for a place. Off to the left is a sand and gravel pit. And I've seen that before, and it's pretty smooth in big areas, and it's well lit. I could see it, and I went, I wonder if that would be a good choice. I didn't feel good about that. If it was daytime, I might have tried that. And I think I could have probably been successful there. But I continued north, continued talking to the controller. He came back and said, asked me at one time.
Can you tell me what intersection you're over now?
Vibration in the engine. I can't really see where I'm at.
He knew where I was, but you want to know if I knew where I was, I think. And I said, I looked down at my iPad on my yoke, and it was I couldn't see anything. I went back, and you hear this in the audio too. I told him, with the vibration, I can't see where I'm at with my iPad. So I knew he knew where I was. Anyway, continued north, and then I'm looking around. I could see I don't know what, it's one of the casinos. It's not Gila River, but it's on Gilbert Road, Gilbert and Hunt Highway. I could see the casino over there, and my first instinct was to go east. And I got to the point where I needed to turn towards, and I'm looking all the time for the ground. All it is darkness. I see one building, looked like a barn down there in the middle of these 4 circles. I knew where it was because I was familiar with it. And I was right over. I knew what it was. I knew there were 4 circles there, and I saw the building, and I thought nobody's probably there anyway, so it doesn't matter. So I went east. I got a little bit ways to the east, and you see that it's on my ground track. It didn't feel right. I just had a feeling, and I thought about that too. I went, I'm not familiar with that area. There was a lot of construction around that casino. There were power lines put in, and I don't know where those power lines are. So I immediately made the decision to bank and turn around and do a 180-degree turn. And in that turn, I remember seeing the stall light, warning light come on. And I was very much aware of that. I saw the stall light, and I knew what I had to do. I compensated, pushed forward a little bit, and kept the stall light off, and went ahead and made the turn. And in my mind, I'm thinking, I don't want to be one of the guys who stalls and spins in. I absolutely didn't want to do that, because if you stall that low to the ground, there's no recovery. It's over. I was very much aware of that. The great thing about that, and maybe I could expand on this now, is Sarah did my flight review at the end of March. She made me do slow flight in there. And I remember at the time going, really? We're going to do slow flight? Can't we just do stalls, something exciting, you know? And we went through the whole routine of slow flight. And she made me do 90 degrees to the left, 90 degrees to the right, which is normal. You know, it's a normal maneuver. And but it was interesting because even at the time I went, this is kind of weird because I haven't done this for a long time. It'd probably been a year, and I used to do them by myself all the time. I'd go to 4,000 or 5,000 feet and just do slow flight and try to get really good at it. Anyway, so I hadn't done it for a while, but it was good that I did it then, and I thought, well, it's good she made me do that. Anyway, so I saw the stall light go on in that turn, and there was 2 times I saw the stall light come on. But this time I had no flaps in, and it was intentional because I was on partial power, remember. If I needed to extend a glide, I didn't want the drag of flaps. So I left the flaps up. Air traffic control had, he was giving me Hunt Highway as a good option.
Of Hunt and Riggs, yes, sir. Cherokee 1-4 November, does it look like you can make either of those roads?
And I considered it. I'm looking at Hunt Highway. I could see the street lights. I could not see the power lines that run parallel to it, very close to it. But I could see a lot of traffic on it still. There was probably a car every 100 yards, 200 yards. And I just at that time said,
yeah, I can make Hunt, but I don't want to endanger anybody else on the highway.
At that point, I made the decision, I'm going in the field. I told him before, I don't want to involve anybody else in this. And so I hope he understood I was going in the field. I didn't tell him I was going in the field, but that was a decision that, that was a decision that I made a long time ago. That if I was in that situation, I was not, because of my choice to fly, I was not going to endanger people on the ground. I would not land on a road. Unless it was completely clear, I wasn't going to land on a road. And I had made that decision already. So it was a pretty easy decision to make. I didn't continue on to Hunt Highway and see if I could make it. It turns out it was a good decision not to, because those high voltage power lines were there. I never would have cleared them. They're up 100 plus feet. If I hadn't done that third full stop taxi back, this engine would have failed right over houses. I would have had nowhere to go. There would have been houses, it would have been roads. It could have been so much better, or worse, not better. It would have definitely been worse. That full stop taxi back took me the amount of time to where I would have been right at Hunt Highway, Sun Lakes. And Sun Lakes has no straight roads. It's a circle. It's one big circle. It just could have been so much worse. I would have been over houses. But I felt, that's the weird thing, right? I felt, no, I think I need to do another one. Why? I've already fulfilled the requirement. It's almost done. All I got to do is land back in Chandler after I take off. Why spend the fuel and the time to do that again? But I felt I should. The interesting thing about this, and I guess we'll get a little philosophical and maybe religious here, but as I turned east, I felt bad about I don't know how to describe it. I felt that it wasn't right. And that's all the feeling I felt. It was like, no, this isn't a good decision. You got to do something else. And that's when I made the decision to do a 180, turn around and go back towards the west. As soon as I made that decision to make the 180 and go back, I felt peace. I knew that it was the right decision. And I had the whole thought process of, I'm going to hit the ground. I don't know what the outcome is going to be. It's in God's hands. And I thought it might be painful. But I was totally at peace. It was funny, from making that 180 and feeling unsettled about it, and making that 180 and going back the other way, peace just settled on me. And I think that point was when I made the last call to ATC. And I could see off to my left side, I started to see power lines, which there's a power line that runs right between the two crop circles, north and south. And a power line runs right through those four. And I could see that power line, but I was kind of angling for it because I could see the dirt. I could see this long line of dirt. I didn't know if it was a canal or a road. Anyway, I got over there and I could see the power lines. And I thought, nope, can't do this. So I looked to the right. There was a dark circle, which I knew was the field. And I decided I'm going to aim for the circle. And so I did. I aimed for the circle, and my intent was to put it down in the dark circle. As I got closer, though, I could see dirt down there. And I thought, hey, maybe there is I might be right in the middle of all these four. I could probably hit that dirt, and it might be a little better. It was good. It was better. Anyway, so at that point, I knew where I was. I knew where I wanted to put it. I knew I had to dissipate some energy, so I pulled full flaps. It was kind of funny because pulling full flaps, and it was like somebody was sitting right next to me, calmly telling me what to do. And I reached and I had the thought, pop the door, which is part of the procedure for off-field landing or crash landing. And I've always worried about that from my training, thinking if I'm ever in this situation, I'm going to forget to pop the door. And I don't like being stuck somewhere, right? So it's always kind of a little, I got to get out of this thing. But that very calmly popped the door. And right when I pulled full flaps, I looked up and there was a power line right here going over my head. And I remember thinking, is that going to hit my tail? But it didn't. So at that point, now looking at it today, that power line, I was probably 20 feet in the air at that point, not very high. And I went, okay, I'm going to hit the dirt patch. And I thought, hey, this might turn out all right. So I landed in the dirt. It was pretty soft dirt. I found out this morning. Last night, I couldn't tell if it was soft or not. The nose wheel and mains were good. I looked further out ahead. I could see with my landing light on that there's a berm and the field beyond the berm. And I remember thinking at the time, this is not going to be good. I could see that berm, and I was still going 50 knots probably. And I hit that berm. There's nothing I could do. I was on the brakes, I think. And I actually blew through it pretty good, and it was kind of smooth. And then just beyond the berm was the field. I crossed the berm, mains and nose wheel made it across the berm about 20 feet. And then that nose wheel dug in, and that's when it snapped off and ended up behind me. But it ended up really close to the airplane, so it followed along. It wanted to keep up. So, and when the nose wheel broke off, it broke off right at the fork. So it had this little pole on the landing gear that came down. And that's what dug into the dirt and made a plow mark all the way to where I stopped. But I felt myself go forward, and my shoulder strap was on, and because it was across my left shoulder, my right side came forward. Everything that was in that airplane hit me in the back or came into the front on the floorboard. And I had some heavy stuff in there, I realized. I mean, it was just boom, and it was all up front. And some of it was even blocking my way out the door. And I ended up kind of in the corner. My knee hit my Bose microphone jack and broke it. And sadly enough, but I'll get another one. An A30 maybe. I'm just kidding. I'll just replace the jack, not the whole headset. I love the headset still. A20's fine. The shoulder harness was there. It kept me from any more serious injury. I mean, I have a sprained wrist where I think I cranked my fingers back against the yoke. And that's no yoke. Pretty good. Anyway, I ended up in the corner. And I think it was the visor, sun visor, that hit the headlamp. I think that's what caused the cut on my forehead. I think my glasses ended up on the dashboard. I couldn't find them afterwards. I had to get spare glasses out of my flight bag, but and I couldn't find anything. I grabbed my backpack, and I actually took my Bose headset with me the first time out. I took the Bose headset, left everything on. I left the master switch on, magneto's on. Of course, the engine's not going to run because the propeller's in the dirt. And then I get out and I fumble around, find my headlamp, and I could see, I went, oh crud, the master switch is still on. And I'm going, is there fuel leaking? Because remember, 40 gallons of fuel. And I'm smelling, trying to smell, and I look at the wing, and it's just tilted forward. It looks perfectly fine. And the right wing the left one had a little ding in it. But yeah, no fuel was leaking. Not a drop of fuel was lost, except I'm sure out of the carburetor that was now on the ground. One blade of the prop was bent 90 degrees back. Brand new prop, 200 hours on it. But after that, I crawled back in, scurried and the helicopter's overhead with a spotlight. And I scurry back in and I turn off the master switch. Okay, everything's good now. Anyway, you don't have time to think about that when you're about to hit the ground. And you don't really know. I really did not know how high I was until I crossed under that power line. And I went, oh crud, I'm close, right? And I saw the dirt, and I sat down in the dirt. And that was probably, 2 seconds or less from the time seeing the power line and touching down. But, and then luckily, I had my flight bag with me, and I had a handheld in there. The helicopter overhead said,
Tower, I'm over the plane now. Appears to be no smoke, and looks like he's out there walking around with a flashlight.
I relayed up to him on 126.1, the Chandler frequency. Chandler couldn't hear me on my handheld.
Evac 1, are you getting a response?
Yes, sir. He's on the ground with a handheld. He sounds okay.
And he told him he's out of the airplane, and I heard him tell him he's out of the airplane, walking around, seems good. And anyway, Chandler Fire Department was there already, but they were there really quick. And the controller, he rolled the trucks. He did good. I mean, he got them there fast. It's fantastic. But anyway, so fire department came out, and we stood around for a while, and they asked me, are you ready to go to the truck? And I'm, whatever. I was on adrenaline and laughing and joking with them, and got me up in the back there, did EKG or ECG, whatever they do. 4 leads, I think. Wait, 1, 2, 3, maybe 5. I don't know. Anyway, they were waiting. They did my blood pressure, and blood pressure was a little high for that. I would think it was 150 over 90 something, 97, which when you consider what I've been through, not bad. Come on. Anyway, they took it 3 times, until finally it was under 130 over 93 or something like that. And they go, and then they finally said, "Oh yeah, pretty good." Going, I thought 150 was pretty good. One of the firemen came in. I can't remember his title. His name was Joe. Came in with his phone and said, "I've already contacted NTSB and he wants to talk to you." And so here I am sitting in the rescue vehicle, and I'm going, "Oh, cool." Anyway, I had my iPad and everything with me in my backpack and stuff. So I sat there and gave him the information that he needed. He took all the information he needed at the time and asked me to come back in the morning and take photos and send to him. And so I agreed to do that. I wish I had video. I actually had thought I think I want to record these landings because I love night landings. I love that view out the cockpit window of the runway lights, you know, where they go from, you have the threshold lights at green, you have the PAPI at red, the runway lights are white, and then they progressively get red towards the other end. And that's just a cool thing. And then red threshold lights down on the other end. I wanted to do a sidewalk like that, but you know, but I wanted to record that because it's one of my favorite things of night flying is that final approach, seeing the runway. To me, it's kind of symbolic. It's coming home. But it was surreal. That last final, the piece. It was weird. Just accepting your fate and knowing that your life is in God's hands. It wasn't resignation. I was still flying the airplane, but knowing that there are possible different outcomes and knowing, Heavenly Father, whatever it is, I'll take it, right? So, kind of weird situation to be in. And I don't know. I walked away. Yeah. I'm still gonna fly. Anybody want to fly with me? I'm no, really. That's a funny thing. Even last night afterwards, talking to the fireman, I'm still thinking, I wonder how long I'm going to be out of an airplane. And I thought that through, going, would I get back in an airplane tonight? And yeah, I would today. I'd go get in an airplane today. The end.